Straight all day.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you have expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is the world is changing, but it ain't changing that much. Now, it's not changing as much as some people would like to believe, as some people are trying to hypnotize themselves into believing, or as much as somebody's trying to tell you that it is changing. And I'm going to explain why I'm even saying this and what it means for you, what actions you can take based on this knowledge that I'm going to share with you here today in a moment. First of all, let me tell everybody I have a daily motivation text that I send out free of charge to everyone who's in my text community. This is a message that's guaranteed when it comes to your phone every morning, guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. So if you would like to be that, focused, sharp, and on point every day, and I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to, just get into my text community by texting me at my number, which is 305-384-6894. Send a text to that number right now, and every day when I send out the daily motivation, because you are in my text community, you will be a recipient of that message. Another thing is, I want you to go to workonyourgame.com/30, workonyourgame.com/30, and get started in my 30 Days to Discipline course, which is exactly as it says. The course is going to make sure that you are more consistent, dependably consistent, that you follow through on the things that you start, and that you stop leaving things half done and undone as you have been up to this point, so you can stop disappointing yourself and actually know that you can trust and depend on yourself. Go to workonyourgame.com/30 and start my 30 Days of Discipline course. Now, with that said, let's get into this subject. You know, sometimes when I talk about any type of traditional idea, some idea that may goes back generations, it's just a principle. A lot of times these are principles. Sometimes they're just traditional ideas. Sometimes they are just basic life principles of success, which I cover a lot on this show. There will always be, not always, let me not say always, but sometimes when I talk about these subjects, there is often someone in the crowd, not a bunch of people, but maybe one or two people, who will pipe up and suggest that, hey Dre, the world is changing, so this traditional idea that you are espousing, is not like that anymore. Things are not this way anymore because the world is changing, things are different, people are thinking different, acting different, doing different, etc., etc. And while I do agree that the world is always changing, yes, the world is always moving forward and changing. I'm a person who says that myself. I want you all to understand that at the same time, it's not changing as much as many people want to believe that it is. Because usually people want things to change, and they're pushing the idea that things are changing because the changes that they're referring to, the type of changes that they want to be happening, or the changes that they want to try to speak into existence, will make the game easier for them if those changes actually were real and true and accurate. Today I'm going to explain both why and how things do change, but they're not changing as much as some people want to make themselves believe that they are, which means those traditional standards, those traditional principles that you had to live up to yesterday and last week and last year, many of them ain't going away. So if you thought the easy way out was that things are changing so you don't have to live up to those standards, you thought wrong. And I'm going to explain that today. Let's get into it. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is the world is not changing that much. Number one, understand something. We are still in a results and a performance-based business. No matter what your favorite social justice warrior or woke advocate or college professor or book author or social media influencer is trying to push out there, or a social media platform themselves is trying to push out there, whatever hashtags going around, whatever people are kneeling and protesting about, whatever people putting on a t-shirt, understand that the business is still driven by performance and results. That is not changing. This one here is not going to change for a very long time. So all of you out there who are underperformers and you're not capable of producing consistent, substantial results, or the problem that you had last week is still going to be a problem for you next week. The problem you had last year is still going to be a problem next year. The only thing that matters in the long run, while we're in the midst of all this stuff that people can talk about, all this discourse, all this back and forth, and all this hoopla over whatever people are trying to distract you with, understand in the long run, the produced results are still the only thing that really matters. That's the only thing that's going to go in the history books. What results got produced? Even though you may see that you got schools and teachers and parents, even politicians, pushing the ideas that, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't need to emphasize performance and results so much anymore. They're still getting laughed at for trying it, for the most part. Now, yeah, there's some people going to try to take them seriously, and guess who those people are? The same people who have kids, or the kids themselves, who are not performing. But in the long run, they're still getting laughed out of the room. The world runs on results. Did everybody hear what I just said? I'm going to say it again because I'm going to make sure the people in the back, the stragglers in the back, the slackers in the back who didn't hear me, I want to make sure you heard me. The world runs on results. Meaning the world is run by the people who produce results, and things get moved forward or not at all based on the results that get produced or not produced. Why? Because results are a scoreboard that all of us know, that lets all of us know who we should trust, who we should value, who we should listen to, and who knows what they're talking about. That's how we judge people. Let me see the results you produce. Let me see your track record. All right, you got a sales page that tells me you can help me do X, Y, Z. Prove it. Show me results that you have done. Show me that you've done this in the past. If you can't show me, then I don't believe you. Even though every now and then some charlatan can sneak in and push some ideas that require the elimination of results-based measurements, people will always default to looking at results before looking at anything else. We're always going to look at, all right, what has this person done that will inform us as to whether or not we should take them seriously and listen to what they have to say or not. It doesn't mean that our entire decision will be based on somebody's results, but it will be considered heavily. Think about this for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Think about how you make your decisions when you're evaluating another person. Do you look at the results they produce? Do you look at their track record? Of course you do. And when other people are evaluating you, they're going to look at your results and they're going to look at your track record. What have you done up to this point? Results matter. They have always mattered. They matter now, and they will matter tomorrow. Point number 2. And oh yeah, that ain't changing. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is the world is not changing that much. Number 2, the golden rule still applies. Everybody know what the golden rule is? And some of you think you know the golden rule, which says treat others as you wish others to treat you, or do unto others as you wish others to do unto you. That's the preschool golden rule. Let me tell you the grown-up golden rule that some of you might not know. He who has the gold makes the rules. All right, that's the grown-up version of the golden rule. That's the results and performance-based version of the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. What does this mean? It means if you're not the person who is writing the checks, the person who's doing the hiring and the firing, the person whose name is on the door, the person who has final say on everything that happens or doesn't happen in your entity, your organization, your family, your household, whatever, then you're not the one who makes the rules. Everybody got it? It has always been this way. It will continue to be this way. Even people who promote things that I have trashed on this show, let's just say challenged. I didn't necessarily trash them, but I've challenged them on this show. Things like critical race theory, Black Lives Matter, people saying men can have babies. All right. These people, guess who they get paid by? The people who are promoting these ideas, they're not just out in the open marketplace selling these ideas to random people. They're not doing that. You know who pays them? You know who's funding the people who are pushing these ideas that I have offered my challenges to? You know who funds them? Any of you know? They're being paid by people who have gold. All right, people who have the gold are funding these people. So if the people who have the gold decide, you know what, we are not going to push the idea of critical race theory anymore. We're not going to push Black Lives Matter anymore. We're not going to push this idea that men can have babies anymore. All the people who are writing books about it and giving speeches about it and putting it in their social media bios and doing YouTube and Instagram videos about it, they will all disappear overnight if the people with the gold decide to stop paying them to talk about it. If the gold holders stop funding these folks, their arguments will disappear fast. It's not the argument that is picking up steam. No, it's the fact that people have the gold have decided to fund these arguments. They stop funding them, the arguments will go away. So some of you are under the impression that this is just some new idea that is just taking steam in the world. No, it's not really. It's an old idea that is just being funded now. That's all. And as soon as the funding goes away, the idea will too. College professors, elementary school teachers, pushing the idea that you either pushing the idea that you either like or don't like, are basically what they're doing is what their bosses have incentivized. Okay, so any ideas that you agree with or disagree with from a school teacher is based on what their bosses have told them to do. School teachers are employees. Okay, they're not making rules. They are following rules. A protester is not a rule maker. A protester is, they may be protesting a rule, but they're not making a rule, and they're not going to change a rule just by the act of protesting. There's somebody else behind them, a gold holder, who is really going to help make change if any change actually occurs. And many times protest doesn't actually do much. Honestly, in the big picture, it doesn't do a lot. Protesters protesting rules, okay, and hoping that the powers that be change their mind based on the message of the protest. That's what protesters do. They protest the rules and they hope that the powers that be will change their mind based on the message of the protest. Hope that that will work. They are not really making it happen, because if they could make it happen, they wouldn't have to protest. So if you catch yourself protesting, you know what position you occupy. All right, workers don't make rules, they follow them. All right, this is just facts. This is not a Baldwin rule. This is just facts of how things work. If you don't believe me, go to your job, look at what the rules are, and then decide that you're going to go against the grain and tell me how that works out. All right, this has not changed and it ain't changing. So this is another way that many people want to push the idea of the world is changing. Not really. Number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the world ain't changing that much. Number 3, if you want real power in life, you got to put some real skin in the game. So this is right here, this point right here, is what any of you who has come to listen to me today and you're under this impression, oh, the world is changing. So things that the way that things have traditionally been, they're different. Okay, here's what I want you to know. If you really believe the world is changing, show me how much power you can get without putting skin in the game. Because that's the real change. Because that's everything I said in point number 1 and point number 2 is about that. I told you the person who produces the results has power. Because you can produce results, that's power. You have skin in the game because you can produce an outcome. If you remove your ability to produce that outcome, then something is missing from the space. That means you'll be able to name your price, because people will pay you to stay around because you can help them produce the outcomes that they want. Therefore, you have power, you have leverage, you have authority. If you're the person who has the goal, you're the person who makes the rules. Therefore, however you say things are going to go, that's the way they're going to go. And if you don't have the goal and you can't produce results, you ain't making no rules. And any of you who thinks that you can become a rule maker without the ability to produce results and without gold, oh no, you can't. Again, show me that you can. If you don't have skin in the game, meaning you're not producing results and you don't have gold, you don't have either one, you're not making any rules. You don't have any power. You may have a voice. A voice is not power. You may have a presence. People can hear you. People may be respectful enough to let you speak, but you don't have any real power. Real power, you don't have to, what's the word I'm looking for here? You don't have to appeal to other people's mindsets when you have real power. You can do what you want to do. See, I don't have to convince you of anything if I have power in a space. I can just do what I want. Whether you agree with me or not is immaterial, because why? I got the power. I got the gold. I produce the results. I make the rules. I don't care what you think, because I had the power. You see, if I had to convince you or protest to you or put my hashtag in front of you or go and gather up a bunch of people and protest in front of your office to get you to do something, then that is proof that I have no power. Because if I had power, I wouldn't have to do any of that. I would just do what I wanted to do in the first place. See, if you want real power in life, you got to put real skin in the game. What does that mean? I'm just saying you cannot obtain power in life by freeloading your way through. All right, hashtag is freeloading. All right, there's no power in a hashtag. There's a voice, there's attention that can be garnered, but there's no power in it. Power is what I told you on point number 1 and point number 2. At some point in life, you have to grab your balls and you got to put something on the line. In other words, you got to put yourself in a position where you could actually lose something in order to gain something. If you don't do that, you can't win. Any of you knows anything about finance, anything about investing, any form of investing, you understand this. Investment means you're putting something on the line that you could lose, but you're placing the bet that you're going to win. If you're not willing to do that, you can't win. You can't win if you don't play. You got to be willing to play the game. Playing the game means you might lose. And if you never put yourself in a position where you could possibly lose, then you are ineligible to win. This is not changing. This is why I've always emphasized the concept of investing in yourself. An investment requires you putting some assets at risk up front, and then you do the work in order to make sure that those assets don't get lost, or at least as best you can to make sure they don't get lost. And hopefully in the end, you have more assets at the end of the game than you had at the beginning of the game. That's the whole point of it. For example, if you disagree with something that I say on this show, and you have a right to, I will believe that you really believe your disagreement if you can show me where you have published a dissenting point of view. Don't just leave a comment or text me and tell me, or email me and tell me that you disagree with something that I said. Show me that you have published something that conflicts with something that I said, because everything that I say I published. It's public. You can see it. I send it out in emails. When I send those emails out, there's tens of thousands of people are reading those messages that I'm writing. When I put this episode out, all right, this show, by the time you hear this, we have passed 5 million total listens in the history of the Work on Your Game Masterclass. On YouTube, my content has been viewed probably over 100 million times, if we're counting all the times I've been pirated in China, and I can't even count the stats. In America, at least 80 million times. I'm not telling you that to impress you, but to impress upon you. Every idea that I put out publicly. So I'm standing on it. So I can never just say, well, I didn't say that, because I'm standing on it. And I'm not just having a conversation with you. I'm having a conversation with the whole world. Everybody can see mine. So if you disagree with something that I said, show me where you published something that says different than what I've said. Not what somebody else said, something that you said. If you can't show me that, that means you don't have skin in the game like I have skin in the game. Therefore, you and I are not equals when it comes to sharing our opinions. Doesn't mean you're not entitled to an opinion, but we're not on the same level. Why? Because mine is public and yours is private. You see the difference? See, when it's public, you can't hide. You can't say that you didn't say something. You can't be anonymous. I'm not anonymous in my opinions. Mine's are public. My name's on everything that I put out. If you haven't done that, that's fine. You don't have to. I'm not saying everybody don't have to have a podcast. Damn near everybody has one now. Everybody don't have to have a YouTube. Everybody does not have to publish all their opinions out there. But understand, if you haven't done what I've done when it comes to putting your opinion out there, and you're only leaving comments, then we're not equals. We're not on the same level when it comes to sharing opinions. When it comes to discourse. Why? Because I'm out there. I'm exposed. You ain't. I'm committed to my point of view because I publish it. If you're in the comments hiding your hands, you really believe it, publish it. Put it out on your platform, then send me a link to what you published. I'll read it. I'll watch it. I'll look at it. I'll listen to it. And so I was surprised when, I remember my sister, who is a public intellectual, I guess we could say. She's a college professor. I guess it's fair to say public intellectual. She's a critical race theory supporter. I talked about critical race theory in, let me tell you what episode that was. That was episode number 1886. I talked about critical race theory, and I mentioned that I had invited her to come on my show. She came on my show years back, before she was an espoused critical race theorist, and I asked her to come on my show, and I gave her a list of all the topics we were going to discuss. This was right in the fall of 2020. So this is before the 2020 Biden versus Trump election. And she said she would come on the show. I gave her a list of all the topics that we were going to ask about. And I was going to ask her about her critical race theorizing. And she said, okay. I gave her a list of all these topics. There's a bunch of stuff we were going to talk about, but there was not going to be any gotcha journalism. I wasn't going to spring any topics on her that she didn't know was coming. She said, okay, agreed to it, then canceled on me the day of. And it made me curious, because clearly she believes the stuff. I mean, she's out there writing about it. She's putting it in academic journals, which is, I guess, that's the thing you do when you're in academia. You publish your stuff in journals. It's like a notch on your belt. Same way that a basketball player wants to score a bunch of points in a game and you got your highlight tape. Publishing in academic journals is like the parallel to that. I guess the best I can explain it, being someone who's not in academia. But you're out there publishing it, putting it out there, and clearly you believe it. Clearly you're standing on it. Clearly you're basing your academic bona fides on the fact that you've written about these things. Hey, this is your resume. Or why not come on and defend it and talk about it? I mean, you're standing on it. Why not? As you clearly you believe it. I mean, I respect the fact that you believe it. I respect the fact that somebody will publish their thoughts on any subject, even if I completely disagree with them. I respect the fact that you'll publish it. But the fact that somebody won't come on and talk about something that you're standing on makes me curious if you really believe it, or if you're just following orders to get a paycheck. Let me go on to point number 2. He who has the gold makes the rules. There's a whole industry that does this. It's not just one person. It's not a one-person thing. It's just an example. It'd be different if somebody's a commentator on YouTube saying something and they don't really believe it. I hear from commentators all the time in my comments and my emails and my DMs and my texts who will say they disagree with something that I said, but then I'm looking at their profiles and there's nothing published. All right, so that person, I'm not looking at them the same. I'm not looking at them the same level of respect, because you ain't on the record. So I don't believe that you really believe what you're saying, because you won't put it out in the public for the world to dissect it. But you see where my stuff is at. I mean, there ain't no question about this. So if you want to have power in the game, you got to put something on the line. All right, this is not changing. So this is not a conclusive list of what I've shared here today. There's just a few things that I want you all to understand. When people talk about the world is changing, and there was somebody who had left a comment in a video that I had put out when I was talking about the business suits. It was a clip that I put on Instagram, and somebody left a comment, and he was saying, well, I work at a company that did a whole bunch of some billions of dollars. He didn't say which company, so who knows if this guy was being honest or not. But anyway, he says he works at some company that does such and such billions of dollars, and nobody wears a suit on campus. And then he said, well, the world is changing, Dre. And I said back to him, well, what if that company says Monday morning everybody needs to wear a suit or you're fired? What are you going to do? Are you going to go to the boss and give him a lecture about how the world is changing? No, your ass is going to put a suit on or you're going to be fired. So is it really changing that much? Not really. Let's recap today's class, which is the world isn't changing that much. So when I talk about some traditional idea or a principle that some people may consider to be quote unquote old school that I believe has value, there's usually somebody who will pipe up and say, well, things are different now. Things are changing. It's not the same as it used to be. And I'm pushing back and saying, well, yes, it is. Point number one, it's still a results and performance-based business. All right, this one is not changing. If you cannot produce results and you cannot perform, you are essentially a nobody in your space until or unless somebody who is a somebody decides to give you some attention. Point number two, golden rule still applies. He who has the gold makes the rules. If you have no gold, then you must work for somebody who does. If you don't have gold, then you do not have any real power. All right, go to your job, go against the grain, you'll find out who really has the power if you really believe that. And most people don't. That's why most people, when they go to work, you follow the rules. And point number three, if you want real power, you got to put real skin in the game. All right, if you really believe something, show us by publishing and putting it out for the public to dissect and attack and go against and basically expose yourself. If you're not willing to do that, then I don't think you really believe anything that you're saying. If you can show me that you publish what you're talking about or you publish what you believe, then I'll believe that you believe it. I'll respect it even if I disagree with it. Many people don't do this. This is why the comment section is much more populated than the publishing section. With all that said, text me to get my daily motivation free of charge straight to your phone. My number is 305-384-6894 and workonyourgame.com/30. Workonyourgame.com/30. Get started on my 30 Days of Discipline course. Work on your game. Dre all day.